Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Private Eyes. I'm Bari.
And I'm Jen.
And as you know by now, we do a lot of surveillance work as private investigators, and we see a lot of crazy things.
While we're out on the field, not only are we witnessing our subjects, but we are noticing all the things around us and things that people don't even know that we're watching.
Right. And Jen, you make a good point. It's not only the subjects that we're watching that are the objects of our investigation and what we see and take videos of. It's a good reminder for our listeners, if you are outside and you do something that you don't want somebody else to see, don't do it. Or you're thinking about doing something you don't want somebody else to see, whether it be picking your nose or whatever. Because if you are out in public, and a lot of people don't realize this, if you are out without an expectation of privacy in the public domain, anybody can take a picture of you at any time.
The nose picking thing is like number
legal.
one. Nose
why
picking,
do people still do
butt
that,
picking,
knowing whatever?
Scratching.
It's a lot
things.
of picking.
Yeah, there's a lot of
so much
picking
picking going on in the world.
Yeah.
So whatever, you want to keep private, keep it inside your house. That's the best advice that we can give you, because it's not illegal, as you all know, for people to take pictures of you. So we're going to be sharing some of those videos of what we see on the scene, so to speak. And you'll get a little taste of what we do.
But not the pornographic
No, not
videos.
any porno movies.
No.
So I want to remind everybody what it is to do surveillance. Basically, when we're doing surveillance, we are sitting in a car. Typically starts off with sitting in a car. Sitting in a car where people can't see us. Just looks like a regular car parked on your street or in a parking lot in a public area. But we're in there and we're filming everything. We're waiting. It's a waiting game. It's a lot of sitting around for hours upon hours, waiting for something to happen. And I hate to say it, sometimes in our boredom of waiting, we just record other things that make us laugh because we got to do something. So we don't know what else to do.
You got to keep it going.
It's just bad. So it starts off in a car, sitting there doing nothing for hours upon hours. And then it might, depending on what our the object of our investigation is doing, it might take us into a gym, or it might take us into a restaurant, or just walking around the streets of New York City, whatever it is. But most of the time, it's sitting in a car waiting. I know the longest time I ever sat in a car without moving or doing anything was 15 hours. But I think you beat me at this point. I think you beat me.
I did. I beat you. It was 17 hours long. And it was definitely interesting.
That's not interesting.
No,
Let's
not
be honest.
interesting.
We talk about telling the truth. Let's be honest. It's not interesting.
No,
it's painful.
It is painful. I guess what I'm trying to say is it was interesting how I had to keep myself going. Mm-hmm. And I do have this adrenaline where I can push myself, and when it's I have to go a little bit further and a little bit further and just a little more, I could just keep going. Yeah. But it's in those 17 hours when I'm waiting for something to happen. It's what do I do? What am I doing?
You have to find, and this is where people think we get calls all the time. I think I'd make a great private investigator. And then the truth is, you're sitting and doing nothing on surveillance for 17 hours, cramped in a car, finding stuff to do, finding stuff to eat. That's the killer. What happens with that?
Especially when you go to work. I mean, when you're on a surveillance case, you're packing your lunch, dinner, whatever, and you get on the job. And as soon as you get on the job, you start eating.
You're out of boredom.
Yeah. And 2 hours into the job, you have no food left.
That's the worst.
I mean, I've been on my hands and knees looking underneath seats and to see if I could find the missing granola bar that fell out of my bag,
or something that you hid. I know you told me you strategically place things and hide them because nobody goes out thinking oh, I'm gonna get ready for my day of spending 17 hours in a car. That's the kiss of death. I mean, if it wasn't, I guess, the nature of our personalities, like you said, you get that adrenaline rush. I mean, I feel the same way. I need to know know the answer. So I will sit there as long as it takes till that guy goes out to the restaurant and I get to eat pizza with him. Like that is like, you know, that's my reward. So, you know, it takes a certain personality. And like I said, you don't go out thinking that your day is going to go that way. You're praying that it's not. And it's almost like, I know if I bring enough food, I'll probably be out of the car and at lunch with my subject in like a matter of 2 hours. And it's always the times you're like, I'm not that hungry today. I'll just pack like 2 hard-boiled eggs. And like you're like dead.
Or you're running out of the house in the morning, you grab a bottle of water and a banana, and that's it. I said, I'll be okay.
Right. And a lot of people think like, you know, oh, you're on surveillance. Like you could leave, go to the store, go to the bathroom. No, you cannot leave, because what happens when you leave? As soon as you leave, your subject comes out. Yeah, something happens. Your guy leaves. Your girl, comes outside and shovels the snow. Like everything that you hope wouldn't happen when you're gone basically happens. It's Murphy's Law every day of the week.
Yep, you always told me that.
You never leave your position. Once you're parked and you are in position, you are set, and you do not leave unless your person leaves, unless your subject leaves.
Right. And that's why you have to stay laser focused, because the second you put your head down, your eyes down, something happens. And we've all been there as an investigator. You know, you put your head down for a second, you're looking for something, you pick your head up and the car's gone.
Right.
And you're like,
you're
wait.
like, shit, I have to call Barry.
You're like, you're rubbing your eyes. Is this true? Where's the car? Where's the car? Oh, and then that's the call you got to make to Barry. And I know in the beginning, I definitely cried a couple times. Like, Barry, I'm sorry, but the car's gone. I don't know what happened. And, you know, you start learning and you build the endurance, and you just got to stay focused.
Right.
I mean.
And that doesn't happen a lot. I mean,
there's not a lot of 15-hour cases.
No, not at all. Thank God. I don't know if I would have made it this long if that was the case. I mean, there were like far and few between. But 8 hours is a long time too.
Still.
And a lot of the cases that we work on, we are sitting in a car for significant periods of time, extended periods of time. And you better find something to do. And that's kind of what brings us to our episode today. Even when our the subject of our investigation, may not be doing something exciting, we can always count on a neighbor or somebody else to do the job. So someone's always doing something crazy outside of our car. Always.
Crazy, funny. I mean, they walk up to your car, they're putting on their lipstick, they're fixing their hair.
I had somebody singing with their little cat, or they walked out of their apartment and they came up to the window going, like looking in the reflection. It was like so bizarre. And you're just sitting there like,
I know.
People watching is
great.
People watching is the best. And it takes
so
a certain personality to be kind of like, you almost have to be addicted to watching what people do and human behavior. And you definitely have to laugh about it. So here we are, today's episode. So do you want to start by telling us like some of the funniest things you've seen on the job that not necessarily related to the person you were watching, but some of the stuff that you've seen? And I know you always send me cute little clips and videos that are hilarious.
Yes. So, you know, when I'm on the job a lot, you know, I see all these things happen. I mean, it could be, you know, one time I saw this woman, she came out of the house, she had a long flannel on. Well, it wasn't that long. It definitely wasn't that long. And she had Uggs on, but she had no pants on. So I was really confused.
And it was cold, right?
It was
Wasn't like
so
cold out?
cold. I'm like, how is she coming out with no pants on? So her car was parked like a couple spots away from mine. And she gets down and she's bending over and she's putting on a new license plate to the front of her vehicle. And all of a sudden, she kind of turns around and bends over, and there she is.
In all her glory.
She's got on these white granny's panties, and they're like staring me in the face. I'm like, how did she comes out with no pants on and has that? So that was a funny one. I've had people, you know, walking down the street with their friends. I had 2 females. They were both pretty large, and they both had pretty large butts. And the one girl was scratching. Like, it was like nonstop. Like, she must have had poison ivy on her butt. She's like scratching and scratching. So it's funny. I like to take those videos and put them to music and stuff like that.
What about that guy you saw that had a car accident? Wasn't there other day, like somebody had a car accident while you were there?
I was in the city and I'm watching, waiting for something to happen at this one building, and all of a sudden you hear boom. The guy T-boned another car, and he gets out. It turns out, I could hear everything going on, and he was like, "Oh no, this is my ex-girlfriend's car." And you could read his lips, and he's like, "Oh," and he's like jumping in the air, and he's
like slammed his hat down on the ground.
He slams his hat down. He was so disappointed, and so all of a sudden, I guess he's like, I see him on the phone. I think he's making a phone call to his ex-girlfriend or maybe the police or whatever, but it was his fault. So then all of a sudden you see him, he throws himself under the front of his car. Okay. So now he's there, he's rolling around, he's talking. At one point he even reached in his pocket and lit up a cigarette and he rolled over, he smoked his cigarette. And, the EMT arrived and an
ambulance came.
Yeah. So the ambulance came, they get him, and all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, my neck." Oh, they put a neck brace on him. They put him on the stretcher. They carry him away, and you're like, wait a minute. He was just jumping around, flipping out.
We need to wait for that call. It will come. They'll want us to. The insurance company will be like, there was an accident. And we'll be like,
my God.
We happen to have some surveillance video for you. He's faking.
No, he was just up jumping around. Now he's got a neck brace on. There's no way. There's no... I'm sorry for laughing.
So like I said, we say all the time, they lie, they fake things.
You gotta be careful.
Lie, cheat, this, that. So here it was in pure daylight. It was his fault.
And he was fine.
And he throws himself under the car, rolls over, lights a cigarette up, and then as soon as the ambulance came, he got back under there, acted all stiff. It was just like, it's just so... To me, those are the crazy things that I've seen. Right. What about you?
So I have a story. Everybody thinks when they call about a cheating case that it's like the movies, and we're going to do like a little pinhole camera in the hotel room right next door, and we're going to film them having sex in the bed and everything. It is not at all like that. In fact, it is very rare that you will see people having sex in public. I mean, how many people you see having sex in public? Not too many.
Not many.
So it's the same. Just because someone's having an affair doesn't mean they're just out there in the middle of the street having sex with somebody, because they can't wait to see them. So, they get a room. So, but in this case, it just worked out beautifully. And so we actually had a tracker on this guy's car, a GPS tracking device, which is perfectly legal because he was still married and his wife put it on there because she didn't want to have us do surveillance on him all day and all night long waiting for something to happen. Well, this was a pain in the ass. Please don't expect your private investigator to chase a tracker around all day long. Yeah. All right? It's on there for security purposes. There's a time and a place for them, and we'll explain that another day. Right. But in this case, I happen to be driving through a particular town. I get an alert that the tracker parked, that the car he was driving with the tracker parked somewhere. And I'm like, oh, shit. It was like literally 5 minutes away. And you know what? I said, I'm going to go check it out. She didn't tell me to do surveillance. I said, I feel really good about this, and I'm just going to go check it out. And I drive to the location. I don't immediately see the car. I drive around, and it's parked facing parked front end in, facing a fence behind a little shopping center where there was like a restaurant and some stores.
Oh, no, they didn't.
But they were in a private area.
Okay.
I said, all right, you know what? I'm just going to go for it. I freaking pulled up in my car. Literally, it was not more than one spot away. So it was their car, empty spot, his car rather, empty spot, my car. And I already thought about this. I thought like, I'm going to jump in the back. And if they notice anything, I'm going to get out of the car and just pretend I parked my car there and I'm going to walk to the store,
right.
if they think anything's suspicious. So I pull up like I planned, like lightning. I get in the back, put in my curtain, and then like I don't breathe. And I put the camera up and I'm like not breathing just to see their reaction. And he's in the car with the woman he had been having an affair with already, which she kind of suspected, which was why we were there. And they're just talking and they are super engaged in one another. And I'm like, holy shit. They didn't even notice this car like literally parked next to them. And now there's nobody in it. Nobody got out. They were so involved, right, with this meeting. I'm like, this is terrific. Please, something happen. So they start kissing. Then I'm filming, and I have like the angle wasn't like terrific. I mean, there's no way to get a good angle of people having sex in a car. Okay, let's put it that way. Unless they're like on the dashboard and like you're front facing them, you're not getting great positions out of this. So, but my position was pretty great because I'm filming out my side rear window and they're in the front seat. So it's not a bench seat, old school bench seat, clear view. I see her, I see him. And he begins to pleasure her and she's throwing her head back and she's laughing and she's smiling and then she reciprocates. I'm like, this video is so freaking good. I'm like, I cannot wait to give it to my client. And this is terrific. I mean, this has never happened before. I totally got them having sex in the car. He's a total cheater. Everything she thought was true. She's going to leave him now, right? Well, she comes in. I tell her what happened. She picks up the video. I send her home to watch it. She calls me the next day. And this is a lesson for all of our listeners. When you're at this point of hiring a private investigator and your spouse has been lying to you, telling you you're crazy, that's not what's happening, you're imagining it, you're the one with the problem, total gaslighting, okay? Total gaslighting. By the time you get to me, I'm going to tell you, before I take any of your money, are you ready to believe what I'm going to show you? Are you ready to believe in yourself is really the question. Are you at the point where my video, which does not lie, is going to confirm your intuition, your feelings, things that you know to be true? Are you strong enough? Because what I'm going to tell you is this video isn't going to mean shit to anybody but you.
Right.
And you have to be ready for that.
I've heard you talk to the
tell
people, and
people
you
that
are
all
honest
the
with
time.
them.
You take this video, nobody can tell you different. You know what is to be true, and you put it in your back pocket. Because the second you let them know that you've spied on them, if you have to do it again, it's going to be nearly impossible. So I give her the video. She's supposed to watch it. She calls me the next day. She goes, and we'll call her Tony Ann. All right. Okay. Tony Ann calls me. She says, Bari, I'm really disappointed in what happened. And I'm like, I'm sure I can understand. It's very disappointing that your spouse is, we saw what we saw.
Yeah.
No, that's not why she's disappointed. Because she showed it to her husband. And he said to her, the private investigator didn't do a very good job because it doesn't show them having intercourse. Okay? So I said to her,
okay, there's a lot of flags here.
I can't help you. So you're telling me that oral sex for your husband to have with another woman is okay, but it's not intercourse, so it's not the same thing. I'm like, is that really what you believe? And she was like stammering. I said, you know what? I can't help you. I really can't help you. Not strong enough. So like, I was so happy. Craziest thing I ever saw. I was super stoked that I got video people. And it was wasted. It was wasted on her. Someone who didn't even appreciate the fact that we got video. I saw people actually having oral sex.
And she showed her husband. Why would you show him
that's the thing. Because they're looking for a reaction. And that's why I say you have to do this for yourself. So that was just crazy all around. Her reaction, his reaction, which I'm not completely shocked about. He probably got away with so much for so long. He said, I'm just going to tell her it's not real sex. It's fake sex.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right.
Worked for her.
Whatever works for you, buddy.
It worked for her. Like I said before, if you're in a public place where you can be seen, your windows are not tinted, there is no expectation of privacy, be mindful of what you're doing. Because if somebody can see you, it's perfectly legal to take pictures of video.
Yeah, and I mean, even when I'm out on surveillance and I am watching somebody's home, waiting for them to come out, if they have their windows wide open and they're walking around in the kitchen, or if they're dancing in the kitchen, I can film them from the street. It's
if
a
you're
public
on a
street.
public street, you are in your
I can
right to
film
do
them.
that. If somebody walking by can see what you're doing, there's no expectation to privacy. It's all about the expectations.
Right. Now, it would be different if I was in their driveway because that's their property. That's why
That
we
would
don't
be trespassing.
Right. So we don't go on people's properties.
Right.
But we can film from the public street. And, you know, it actually reminds me, one more crazy thing that I've seen is I was on a case and I'm watching this one house, but behind me was an apartment complex. And I saw two young boys. They were breaking and entering the building. I saw him.
Did you call the police?
I didn't even have to call the police because I think somebody might have saw already. I think I was like more in shock. But at first I'm like, okay, maybe they live there and they lost their key and they're like breaking the window to try to get inside. But then a little while later, you know, I see lights going and let's just put it this way. I wasn't in the greatest area. So, I see that. And then, like an hour later, I'm still in the car. I hear gunshots going off down the street. So, there's this crazy things happen, but you stay in the car, you're safe. Mm-hmm. You just keep your eyes open.
Generally safe.
Yeah.
With your can of mace.
Yeah. I mean, and nobody's going to touch you if you're inside a vehicle.
Right.
So,
it's like you're invisible.
Yeah, they don't know. So.
Okay, so it's time for email of the week. So this listener writes, last Friday, my ex walked up my driveway, unlatched my gate, and stole 2 of my dogs out of the yard. The police called him, and he's denying it. But I have video of him driving by my house at 1:03 p.m. and stealing the dogs at 1:04 p.m. The police are saying that there's just not enough evidence to prove it was him, but I know for a fact it was. The dogs bark at everyone that walks by unless they know them, and you can clearly hear him calling the one dog by name. I just need to know where he is and prove that he has my dogs. Ugh! I hate this because I love dogs and this makes me upset. So, I mean, I'm believing her. I think what she's saying is true. The dogs, obviously, if the dogs were not barking, as she says, they knew the person that came to take them.
Yeah.
So, might it not be the ex? Maybe it could be a relative that they knew.
A
that
friend.
They sent somebody. So you got to make sure before you're going to accuse somebody. So how do we prove this? So this isn't a job, for the police at this point. They're like super busy. It is a job for us.
It's time for us to put on pet detective outfit.
Detective, and this wouldn't be the first time either.
No.
We've done some pet cases before in the past. So in this case, I mean, what we'd want to do is obviously surveillance on the ex. Does the ex have the dogs? And if it was that important for him to take it, if he doesn't have them in his home, he's going to bring us to the dogs. So I would definitely want to do surveillance on the ex.
Right.
Find where he is. I would obviously have to talk and give some, get some more details about location. We might have to do research, database searches to find out if he's staying with a relative or where he might be currently, or pick him up from work, wherever he might be that he frequents. Wait there for him and follow him. And if he has those dogs, my guess is he'll bring them to us.
Right.
And then she'll know. And then she can go to the police. And maybe they'll still do nothing. I don't know. But I would do surveillance.
I don't know. I mean, I
What, you
bet you
wouldn't?
the police... Yeah. I mean, if somebody stole my dog, I would do everything to get him back.
I know.
I mean... I don't know what the police do. I mean, they probably get a lot of calls for stolen animals.
Yeah, lots of stolen things. And I think with the Ring doorbells and all the security cameras that people have, people are pretty good at gathering their own evidence. I mean, I would also say, take him to court and let him prove otherwise that he doesn't have those dogs. Mm-hmm. Evidence is that good. I need to see the video.
Yeah.
So I want to thank everybody for joining us today, everyone who's listening. This episode is either going to make you die to be a private investigator, or just the thought of being one would make you like literally die because you're going to hate it or love it. It's like one of those things. You have to be the kind of person that wants to know what happens next and, you know, have the tenacity to stay and focus on that person no matter how many hours it takes to get the information that you need. So you're going to love it or hate it. And if you're a people watcher, I mean,
then you'll love it.
You'll love it. Yeah. And if you're not, absolutely
go
gonna
find
hate
something
it.
else.
Yeah, find another job. So case closed. That's a wrap.
And we want to keep hearing from you. So keep sending those emails at theprivateeyes.podcast@gmail.com.
See you next time.